Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, today we are absolutely strapping in because, well, this is necessary. We're doing a deep dive, maybe a terrifying one, into one of daytime TV's biggest, longest-running psychological nightmares.
It really is.
We're talking Genoa City, Young and the Restless, and specifically the just massive stakes around a character who everyone thought was dead for 23 years.
Yeah, gone since 2001.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission today is, frankly, critical. This villain, Matt Clark, who was long dead, he's back, and it's completely thrown everything upside down on Y&R. We really need to unpack his entire history, this sustained campaign of calculated trauma to get why people are reacting the way they are.
And panic is definitely the word. You use terrified. I think panic fits, too, because, look, this isn't your average bad guy popping back up for a rating stunt.
No.
What we're digging into here is a character who embodies, one of the most destructive, most prolonged campaigns of abuse, sexual violence, psychological warfare, maybe ever on a show like this.
Decades worth.
Right. And his main victims, the core couple, Sharon and Nick Newman, they aren't just seeing an old enemy. They're literally facing reactivated trauma spanning decades. So to understand why they are so completely freaked out, as the sources put it, practically collapsing, we have to trace this guy's whole playbook from 1994 right up to, well, right now.
Okay, let's hit that big reveal first, the thing that kicked this all off again. For anyone who maybe hasn't caught the immediate fallout, Y&R brought in Roger Howard.
Huge soap vet. Brilliant cast.
Powerhouse, right. Known for these intense, complex villains. And he comes in as this character, Mitch McCall. Runs a club in L.A., married to Sienna Bacall. Seems normal enough. And then the twist, the absolute gut punch, as you said, that has fans just reeling. Mitch is Matt Clark, alive, recast, obviously, but very much alive. And the sources nail it. They call him a mega monster.
It really is perfect casting. Howard has this quiet intensity. He plays characters who are terrifying precisely because they seem so contained to a control.
Yes.
And the sources make it clear. Matt Clark, as Mitch McCall, has been living this incredibly sophisticated double life undercover for years.
23 years.
And crucially, nobody in L.A. knows. Not his wife, Sienna, not people he's known for years and years, like this Holden Novak character. Nobody has a clue about his sordid and criminal past back in Genoa City. He essentially just wiped Matt Clark off the map.
Or so he thought. And what jumps out immediately, reading about this, is that Matt, or Mitch, he didn't waste any time snapping back into his old ways when Sharon found him. Because she did recognize him, despite the new face, the new name.
Oh, yeah.
The confrontation happened, and bam, what's his first move? The sources say he started gaslighting Sharon immediately.
And that's the key right there. That's the analytical point.
Yeah.
He didn't just deny being a bad guy. He specifically denied being Matt Clark.
Right. He insisted, no, I'm Mitch. You must be mistaken. You've got me confused with someone else.
Exactly. And then the move with the bouncer, having him block her from the club, it's perfect villainy. It's not just physically pushing her away. It's a systematic denial of her reality. He's using his new identity, his respectable front, as a weapon to make her doubt what she knows is true. He's controlling the narrative, just like always.
Making her doubt her own memory, her sanity, it just sets the stage for a whole new round of psychological terror. He's actively trying to erase his history by making her question hers.
Which is why we have to go back. To really get the sheer scope, the weight of this threat, we need to start at the beginning. Let's do part one, the origin story, high school, 1994.
1994, wow. Okay, so Matt Clark, originally played by Eddie Cibrian. He wasn't some random outsider. He was introduced as a peer right there in high school with Nick and Sharon.
Yeah, integrated right into their social circle.
Yeah.
He actually dated Sharon first, briefly. But the second Nick Newman shows up, interested in Sharon, the rivalry starts instantly.
And what's really telling looking back is how fast this high school thing blew past normal teenage drama.
Oh, way past.
We read about them becoming enemies fast, and then it leads to this terrible physical fistfight altercation. Nick gets badly beaten. That's already a huge escalation from just, competing for a girl.
A huge escalation. But even that physical violence, it was just a warm-up act, an appetizer, really, for the psychological and sexual violence that truly defined him.
Okay, so unpack that.
The moment Sharon definitively chose Nick, rejected Matt, basically Matt didn't just get angry. He escalated instantly, from rival to predator. The sources are clear. Not long after she chose Nick, Matt Clark raped Sharon.
Let's just pause on that, because the sources emphasize this wasn't random. It wasn't a crime of opportunity. It was a direct, calculated response to being rejected.
Absolutely calculated. And that specific act of sexual violence was the trigger for everything that followed for Sharon. It led to her deep depression, her struggles. So the thing for you, the listener, to really grasp is that Matt Clark's entire villain arc, spanning 3 decades now, it's founded on this. This specific act of calculated sexual violence meant to punish a woman for choosing someone else. That's his sociopathic origin story.
And he didn't just stop with the assault itself. He immediately pivoted to weaponizing Sharon's deepest secrets against Nick.
Correct. He even started dating Sharon's best friend at the time, Amy Wilson. And you have to assume that was strategic, right? To get closer, gather information, find ways to inflict maximum emotional damage.
It feels so transactional, using Amy like that.
Completely. And the culmination of this phase, this initial scheme, was the high school dance.
Yep.
Nick and Sharon win king and queen, a very public symbol of their happiness, their connection, despite Matt's efforts.
Yeah.
And seeing that,
Yeah.
it just set Matt off.
So he goes straight to Nick, not Sharon, but Nick, to inflict the most pain. And he drops 2 huge bombshells. Secrets Nick knew nothing about.
Massive secrets. First, the revelation that Sharon wasn't a virgin, which apparently Nick had believed.
Okay, hurtful, maybe shakes his perception, but survivable.
Right. But the second one, that was the life-altering one. Matt reveals that Sharon had given up a baby for adoption when she was just 16.
Wow.
And that secret, as longtime viewers know, is a cornerstone of the show's history. It connects directly to Mariah and Cassie's birth.
So Matt Clark, this jealous high school rival, exposed the most fundamental private secret of Sharon's young life, purely to hurt Nick and destroy their relationship.
It perfectly illustrates his method. If he can't have you, or if he can't beat you physically, he'll use your past, your secrets, your vulnerabilities to tear down your happiness.
Which leads into Nick's reaction, which the sources describe as really complex. I mean, Nick was young, a bit of a hothead.
Right. Initially furious. Understandably. Not just about the secrets themselves, but about being lied to, the trust being broken.
But here's the key point, right? About the foundation of Nick and Sharon's relationship. Despite Matt doing his absolute worst, despite Nick having, maybe justification to walk away.
He didn't.
He didn't. He processed it. He got past the initial anger, the betrayal, and he still proposed to Sharon.
They actually overcame that first wave of Matt's destruction, which of course probably just made Matt even more determined to come back later and finish the job.
Ugh. Which brings us perfectly into part 2, the shooting, the frame-up, and the exoneration. This is 1996. This is where Matt tries to destroy Nick's freedom completely.
Exactly. Fast forward 2 years from the high school stuff. Nick and Sharon are finally about to get married. They've gotten past the secrets. They're ready to move on. But right before the wedding, Sharon finds the courage to tell Nick the whole truth.
Rape?
The rape. She tells him Matt raped her. And hearing this truth, knowing what Matt did, it just unleashes this terrible chain reaction. Nick, understandably consumed by fury, by this protective rage, he goes immediately to confront Matt.
But it's not a confrontation he finds.
No. He finds a crime scene. Matt's been shot. He's lying in a pool of his own blood.
Okay, so Matt survives this.
He does. But his sociopathic brain kicks in instantly. Instead of telling the police what happened, he lies. He immediately points the finger at Nick, accusing him of the shooting.
Classic Matt Clark, weaponizing his own injury.
Turning himself into the victim so he can use the system against his enemy. And the fallout for Nick was catastrophic. Arrested, tried, found guilty of attempted murder, based only on Matt's lie.
And sentenced to
15 years in prison.
15 years. Just think about that. A lie, a single calculated lie, puts Nick behind bars for over a decade, destroys his wedding day, completely derails his life.
It's staggering. But this is where the dynamics of Genoa City kick in. This is where Victor Newman, Nick's father, gets involved.
The patriarch, using his power and resources.
Exactly. Victor starts digging, tracking down people connected to Matt, trying to find the truth to save his son. And this investigation leads him to Amy Wilson.
Sharon's former best friend, the one Matt dated.
That's the one. But she's not doing well. Victor finds her in a mental health facility, and the sources specifically mention she's suffering from severe PTSD.
Okay, wait. That detail, the PTSD, the fact she's institutionalized, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? It shows the kind of deep, lasting mental damage Matt inflicted went way beyond just Sharon.
It absolutely does. It paints a picture of just how profoundly destructive Matt was to anyone who got close to him. And Amy, her confession is what breaks the case open for Nick. But it comes with this horrific twist.
What does she confess?
She confesses she was the one who shot Matt.
Okay, so Nick is innocent. But Why did Amy shoot him?
And here is the devastating, crucial detail. The detail that really cements Matt Clark's profile as something truly monstrous. Amy confessed she shot him because he had also raped her.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So Nick's exoneration, while obviously huge for him, it almost becomes secondary to the sickening realization that Matt Clark wasn't just a terrible guy or a creep. He was a repeat rapist.
A systematic serial predator. The sources use terms like horrible creep, repeat rapist. This wasn't just about rivalry with Nick anymore. This established his fundamental nature.
So this truth comes out. Amy confesses, reveals the rape.
And that provides the basis, legally and emotionally, for Nick's release. He's finally exonerated. But Matt Clark, the actual perpetrator...
He doesn't face justice?
Nope. He flees Genoa City, goes completely underground in 1996, escapes all accountability for the rapes, the framing, the beatings, everything.
He just vanishes, leaving behind all this wreckage. Nick is free, but scarred. Amy is institutionalized with PTSD. Sharon is still dealing with the trauma of her assault. And for 4 years, silence. They must have thought they were finally safe.
You'd think so. But that brings us to part 3, the return, the new face, and the second reign of terror. We jump to the year 2000, runs through 2001.
And the sheer audacity of this return is just something else.
Right. He doesn't just sneak back. Matt Clark returns completely transformed. He's had extensive plastic surgery.
Yeah.
He has a whole new identity. Carter Mills.
Not just a fake ID, a whole new face to literally erase his criminal past.
Exactly. And you mentioned this earlier, but it's worth highlighting again. This is where the character literally wears different faces. Russell Lawrence played Carter Mills briefly. Then Rick Hurst took over until the character's apparent death in 2001.
So if you're keeping score at home, that's Eddie Cibrian, Russell Lawrence, Rick Hurst, and now Roger Howarth. 4 actors, 1 core villain, constantly shifting, constantly evading.
And that new face, that new identity as Carter Mills, allowed him to execute his next plan perfectly. Infiltration.
Where does he go?
Straight into their lives. He gets a job at Crimson Lights, the coffee shop Nick and Sharon owned at the time.
Oh, come on.
Right under their noses. Working there daily, watching them, observing, learning their routines, their vulnerabilities, just waiting for his moment.
And he goes right back to his old tricks, targeting Nick first.
Immediately. Same playbook. Frame Nick. This time, as Carter, he gets a woman he's sleeping with to plant drugs on Nick, framing him for dealing.
And Nick ends up
back in jail. Again. The second time his freedom is stolen because of a Matt Clark lie.
Unbelievable. And while Nick's locked up, Matt, as Carter, turns his attention to Sharon.
Exactly. She's vulnerable, Nick's gone, and crucially, she has no idea who Carter Mills really is because of the surgery. She's completely fooled.
And this is where it gets just agonizingly repetitive in the worst way.
It does. He gets close to her, he drugs her, and the sources say he nearly raped her again.
Nearly, so he was stopped.
Yes. Nick managed to get out of jail, just temporarily, and showed up at the absolute last second. Saved her from going through that specific trauma all over again.
That pattern, though. Rejection, assault, frame Nick. It's like he's caught in this horrifying loop himself. He just can't let go.
He's obsessed. And it's around this time that the police finally put 2 and 2 together. They realize Carter Mills has to be the surgically altered Matt Clark.
Okay, so the jig is up.
The jig is up. They launch a full-scale manhunt. His identity is blown. His crimes are catching up to him.
And this manhunt leads to more confrontations, right? There's a cabin incident.
Yes, a remote cabin. He gets Sharon trapped there. And again, the sources state he almost raped Sharon again. That's the 3rd documented attempt or near attempt in this period alone.
Who stops him this time?
Victor Newman, again. Pops up like the ultimate protective dad, foils Matt Clark's plan, stops the assault. It really highlights Victor's role as the constant barrier against Matt's evil.
But that wasn't the final end, was it? The 2001 storyline culminates in something much more definitive.
Right. The car crash.
Yeah.
And the tragic symmetry here. It's Amy again.
Amy Wilson, the first victim who shot him.
The very same. The woman suffering from PTSD because he raped her. In what the sources describe as a murder-suicide attempt, she drives the car with both of them in it over a cliff.
Wow. What happened?
Amy actually survived the crash.
Hey.
But Matt, his injuries were described as too severe. This looked like the end.
Looked like the end. But even dying, he wasn't done, was he? This is where we get to part 4, the dying scheme and the lasting trauma. Because somehow he managed to inflict his worst damage after the crash.
It's truly chilling. He's in the hospital, hooked up to machines, clearly dying. And he uses his last conscious moments not for apologies, not for peace, but for one final act of psychological warfare.
What does he do?
He delivers the final lie, part 1. Waits until Nick is right there, bedside, for maximum impact. And he lies. He falsely claims that he did succeed in raping Sharon before the car crash.
Oh, no.
He implants that poison, that doubt, right into Nick's head, weaponizing sexual assault one last time to potentially destroy their trust forever.
And then there's part 2 of the lie.
The final lie, part 2. The ultimate act of malice. As he's dying, he pulls out his own breathing tube.
To frame Nick.
To try and frame Nick for his murder from his deathbed. Nick was initially the prime suspect. It took time, but he was eventually exonerated, and Matt's death was officially confirmed in 2001.
So, Matt's dead, finally. But the real, lasting trauma that came next, didn't it? The paternity horror.
Yes. Shortly after Matt's death, Sharon discovers she's pregnant.
And because Matt planted that final lie, claiming the rape happened.
Nick is consumed by fear, utterly terrified that the baby Sharon is carrying might belong to Matt Clark, the man who tormented them for years.
And this fear drives Nick. The sources say he pressured Sharon relentlessly for a paternity test while she was still pregnant.
He did. And this is a really critical point the sources make back then in the early 2000s. Getting a paternity test while the baby was still in utero was considered a lot riskier for a fetus than it is today.
So Sharon refused.
She refused,
Right.
rightly so, trying to protect the baby physically while dealing with this immense emotional stress from Matt's lie and Nick's pressure. It all led to this catastrophic argument between them, an argument fueled entirely by the doubt Matt Clark planted as he died.
And the result? It's just heartbreaking.
Devastating. During this intense argument, the stress, the conflict, Sharon tripped. She fell. The fall induced early labor. And the baby was stillborn.
Oh God, a child died because of Matt Clark's lie from his deathbed.
That's the bottom line. The analysis is unavoidable. Matt's final calculated psychological manipulation directly led to the circumstances causing the death of Nick and Sharon's child. It was murder by remote control, essentially. Posthumous psychological warfare.
And the final sickening twist.
The paternity test was done after the stillbirth, and it confirmed Nick was the father.
Of course he was. Matt's lie was pure poison, designed only to destroy. And it succeeded in the most tragic way possible. It killed their child and, as the sources say, it messed up their relationship on a fundamental level. That grief, that specific loss, has haunted them for decades.
That was his legacy. For 23 years, that stillborn child, the lie that caused it, that was Matt Clark's final poisonous victory.
A victory they thought was buried with him. Until now. Which brings us crashing into the present. Part 5. Mitch McCall, the new threat and the stakes. The monster is back.
He's back, played by Roger Howarth. And his return means every single wound, every trauma we just painstakingly recounted, it's all ripped open again. Matt Clark is alive. He's Mitch McCall, running his club in L.A. He pulled off the identity theft for over 2 decades.
And the success of that identity theft is the core of the current thread, isn't it?
Absolutely. The sources hammered this point home, the depth of the double life. Nobody in L.A. knows his wife, Sienna. She has no idea she is married to a monster. She just knows Mitch, the successful club owner, people he's worked with for years and years, totally clueless. He successfully became a ghost and built a whole new reality on top of the ashes of his old one.
And this is where it gets really fascinating psychologically, especially with the insights from Roger Howarth himself that the sources mentioned. The idea that Matt has been faking being Mitch for so long.
That he now believes that's who he really is.
Yes, that's not just acting anymore.
No, that moves beyond disguise into genuine sociopathic delusion, doesn't it? He hasn't just adopted a role, he's internalized the lie. He genuinely believes he is Mitch McCall, this respectable man who deserves the life he stole.
Which explains why his reaction to Sharon recognizing him was instant aggressive gaslighting.
Exactly. It wasn't just about protecting a secret identity. It was about defending his actual chosen reality. Anyone challenging that reality is an existential threat to him.
And that is the crucial danger now for Nick and Sharon, according to Howarth's take on the character. Matt will do absolutely anything to protect his secret dirty past. The primary drive isn't necessarily revenge this time, like it was in 2000.
Right. It's preservation. Preservation of Mitch McCall. Anyone who threatens to expose Mitch to bring Matt Clark back from the dead, they become target number 1.
Which leads directly into the current speculation mentioned in the source material. Given Matt's history of these indirect attacks going after family, framing Nick, indirectly causing the baby's death.
The most potent theory making the rounds right now is that Matt, as Mitch, could be the one responsible for running Noah Newman off the road.
Noah being Nick and Sharon's adult son.
Exactly. It fits the pattern perfectly, doesn't it? Can't get to Nick and Sharon directly without exposing himself. Attack the people they love most. Maximize their pain, maybe ensure their silence, all to protect his carefully constructed life as Mitch.
If he feels like his 2 decades of work are about to crumble because Sharon saw him, targeting the next generation makes horrifying sense in his twisted logic.
And this is why his return hits so hard for longtime viewers. It's not just, oh, the bad guy's back. It's the return of the specific trauma that resulted in the death of their child. Matt Clark is back to torment Sharon, specifically, and the whole Newman family structure is threatened all over again.
Absolutely. So, if we just summarize everything we've pulled from the sources in this deep dive, Matt Clark is unequivocally a terrible human, a repeat rapist, a criminal, and an all-around creep. His return isn't just plot. It's the reactivation of probably the most sustained, destructive cycle of trauma the show has ever depicted for Nick and Sharon.
And his methods are consistent, terrifyingly so. Rivalry escalating to sexual violence, framing his victims, multiple identity thefts, systematic gaslighting, and ultimately psychological warfare so potent it caused the death of an unborn child. He is the literal definition of a villain who just keeps coming back, finding new faces, new ways to shatter Nick and Sharon's lives.
Which leads us to that final provocative thought for you, the learner, to chew on. Given everything we know now, given that Matt Clark's primary motivation today seems to be the absolute protection of his stolen identity, Mitch McCall, and his stated willingness, per Howarth, to do anything to keep that secret buried, here's the question. If Matt Mitch genuinely believes his own lie after nearly 25 years, if he truly is Mitch in his own mind, what extreme, calculated, maybe even lethal lengths will he go to when Nick and Sharon inevitably start succeeding in proving who he really is? And maybe just as chilling, how deep does that manipulation run? How long can his wife Sienna live alongside this monster, completely unaware of the danger she's in? The threat isn't just the man they knew, it's a monster who now likely sees himself as the victim, desperately protecting his truth.